It's amazing how perception changes over time. The Q7 luxury crossover at the time of its debut seemed to be the peak of manufacturability, and today you look at the display of the MMI multimedia complex and, in comparison with modern interfaces, perceive it as a TV with a ray tube in a smart panel environment. But the quality of finishing materials is on top. The body of corrosion is too tough, and the interior of the Audi will look fresh even after 100,000 kilometers. Yes, and the engineering and technical stuffing of premium properties structurally makes the Q7 still relevant. Efficient engines, decent automatic machines, a technologically advanced all-wheel drive transmission, as well as a modest initial equipment and a rich list of options. Beauty, if every component of this list works. However, the axiom, long proven by the global automotive industry, says the opposite. The car is more capricious, the more difficult it is. No wonder the Q7 has enough pain points. And although their scale is not always large, the treatment of the patient can result in considerable expenses. If you are looking for a gasoline version without a turbine, you will have to choose from pre-styling cars, not younger than 2010, because after the upgrade they were replaced by a 3-liter 3.0 TFSI turbo engine. Which is better? A fresher supercharged or aspirated V6 3.6 FSI and V8 4.2 FSI on 5 to 9-year-old crossovers? There is no fundamental difference. The main thing is that the previous client does not take off all the cream before you. Somewhere in the range of 100 to 150,000 kilometers, the fuel pump breaks down at units from the old guard. Thunder can strike even earlier if the quality of fuel and engine oil is neglected. On machines with 3.6 FSI, 280 horsepower, 360 Newton meters, ignition coils suffer and high-pressure fuel injectors periodically disturb. The reason for the second ailment is very ordinary: rubber gaskets wear out. It is impossible to pull with repairs because of the risk of ignition. Loss of tightness turns into fuel leaks, dangerous. The timing chain of the 3.6 FSI modification is guaranteed to lose its tightness after 100,000 kilometers, and to replace it, you will have to remove the engine. Therefore, the repair, taking into account the work, pulls 100,000 rubles. In a petrol V-shaped 8, 350 horsepower, 440 Newton meters, the chain lives almost twice as long, but its replacement rates are the same. This engine loves to spend not only gasoline, but also engine oil, so it's better not to drive without a canister for topping up. By 100,000 kilometers, oil can additionally ooze through the cylinder head cover gasket. An even greater appetite, along with misfiring, whistling, and trimming, signal the death of oil separators. The solution to the problem is in the region of 6,000 rubles. The successor to gasoline aspirated, a 3-liter turbo V6 3.0 TFSI, 272 horsepower, 400 Newton meters, 333 horsepower, 440 Newton meters, at first ugly fairly. The problem was one, but sweeping. On copies of the year 2010 to 2012, later the disease was eliminated. The increased consumption of lubricants turned into oil starvation, which caused seizures in the cylinders and damaged the blockhead. The devastation happened at ridiculous runs, 20,000 kilometers, and therefore was eliminated under warranty by replacing the motor. Therefore, if you want a gasoline Q7 after restyling, focus on a car from 2012 and younger. True, there are few such proposals, especially against the background of diesel Q7s. You don't have to look for a 3.0 TDI modification. There are plenty of them on the European mainland. In Europe, these cars were basic, but in our country they were sold not much more expensive than gasoline versions. The 3-liter Q7 on diesel fuel captivated with promising efficiency with a moderate appetite and a relatively affordable price. Plus, tax savings are the only option up to 250 forces. Before restyling, the engine produced 233 horsepower and 500 Newton meters, and after it, 240 horsepower, later, 245 and 550 Newton meters of torque. Definitely better to buy a car with a 3.0 TDI before 2010. However, the increased power in this choice plays the last role. The main thing is that on the way to post-styling crossovers, the diesel engine has actually completely recovered from childhood diseases. For example, the components of the exhaust manifold on early copies had to be repaired every 40,000 kilometers, and on relatively new cars there is no such problem at all. The engineers took into account the miscalculation. A similar alignment is with the high-pressure fuel pump. The the old Q7 has a lot of trouble with it and much less for newer cars. Although the fuel pump should still be given increased attention, because if you bring it to the point where aluminum chips get into the fuel system, it's time to look for 300 to 500,000 rubles for repairs. By this time, the warranty usually ends. The timing chain here, 3.0 TDI, is updated at the turn of 150,000 kilometers, although for some daredevils it reaches 300,000 kilometers. To change the turbine with proper operation will have to 200,000 kilometers. It's not cheap, 100,000 rubles for a replacement. Turbo diesel 4.2 TDI, 340 horsepower, 800 Newton meters, before and after restyling, was not included in the blacklist of automobile doctors. Perhaps this is the most tenacious version of the Q7. Oil seal leakage is the only infection. The problem is not terrible, but rests on the complexity of the repair, because in order to change some of them, you need to disassemble half of the engine compartment infrastructure. It is noteworthy that the 4.2 TDI modifications on the market are an order of magnitude smaller than 3-liter crossovers, apparently due to the higher price during the initial purchase. But even against its background, the unimaginable Q7 with the 6-liter V12 diesel engine is a candidate for inclusion in the Red Book. There are no breakdown statistics on it due to the museum circulation, although there are even fewer people who want to buy a 500 strong and 1,000 Newton meters car on the secondary market. No wonder, to maintain such a locomotive is possible only with a bottomless budget. A common problem for all diesel engines is the age-related diseases of the regular Webasto unit. You will have to allocate 22,000 rubles for a new heat exchanger housing, about 5,000 rubles for glow plugs, and 6,000 rubles for programming. Inexpensive compared to other costs. The climate system pipes are trash for any Q7, and not only, related Touareg and Cayenne also suffer from this. Made of aluminum, they suffer under the onslaught of temperature changes, reagents, and dirt. The weak immunity of the overpass exacerbates the barbaric repairs by garage servicemen. Non-working climate is taken to be repaired everywhere, but often it only increases the cost of repairs by professionals. It's better to immediately look for proven craftsmen. The steering rack surrenders before the cherished 100,000 kilometers. The trapeze of the wipers is a consumable, requiring replacement almost every season, more than 10,000 rubles. But the suspension is strong. Even pneumatics are exhausted by 100,000 kilometers. Stabilizer struts live 125,000. Although the bushings need to be changed already at 80 to 90,000. Aluminum levers die the fastest, from 50,000 kilometers. Many change them to cast iron ones from the Touareg, from 75,000 kilometers. In total, in order to cure a battered chassis, you need to master at least 100,000 rubles. By 150,000 kilometers, the generator runs down, and when it comes to the denouement, the car will immobilize. Official dealers offer to change the complete assembly, if the car is still under warranty, free of charge, if not, for 27,000 rubles. As a rule, owners of post-warranty cars turn to unofficial services, where the generator is sorted out, bringing the car back to life. At the same turn, the starter breaks, 20,000 rubles. If it does, it doesn't hurt to check the wiring first, as it could be the cause and it's cheaper. Keep your drainage lines clean, especially under the hood. This simple thing can save at least 50,000 rubles. If the Q7 is standing under trees all year round, there is a risk of killing the electronic engine control unit, into which water can seep through the ventilation shafts. Is it worth talking about the consequences? And moisture can also extinguish the MMI multimedia complex due to the ingress of rear washer fluid into the electronic unit, located in the tailgate. The consequences, of course, are not so deplorable, but still not pleasant enough. Electronic problems will not bypass automatic transmissions, although they will not be directly related to dampness. Shocks when switching appear to 100,000 kilometers. The reason most often lies not in the wear of the iron, but in the aging of the wiring contacts, 20,000 rubles. If you delay the repair, you can sentence all the electronics of the checkpoint, up to 500,000 rubles. For prevention, every 60,000 kilometers it is not harmful to change gear oil, which is formally designed for a life cycle. It is noteworthy that this cannot be done without the knowledge of electronics. Audi is stuffed with CAN buses and brains, so after changing the working fluid, the box will have to be reconfigured using a service computer. In a word, the conclusion is quite unambiguous. The Audi Q7 is an incredibly complex car. Servicing it yourself is at least not easy, and in a sense impossible. But even repairs outside the dealer walls will not make the operation of the Audi cheap. To maintain the health of the new Q7, one should be prepared for unexpected and large expenses. Save will not work. You can't carve 7 big hats out of a sheep.